Rain hammered against the glass walls of Mercy Tower Hospital as Lily Hartman was rushed through the sliding doors on a stretcher, her breaths short and broken. The paramedics shouted vitals while nurses cleared a path, but Lily was barely conscious, clutching her swollen stomach as waves of pain tore through her. She was 28, pregnant with twins, exhausted from working double shifts, and carrying more fear than any mother should. Yet the man who was supposed to protect her was nowhere in sight. Inside the trauma bay, the fluorescent lights felt cold, almost cruel. Dr. Mason Reeves examined her quickly, his voice firm but calm as he ordered immediate prep for emergency surgery. "She's losing too much pressure. We need consent to operate," he said. The team looked around, hoping her husband would appear. Lily whispered, "Cole." He said he was coming. But when Cole Thatcher finally walked in, he carried not urgency but irritation, as if this crisis had inconvenienced his evening. He didn't look at her first. He looked at the digital board showing the estimated surgical cost. Then he pulled out his phone, scrolling through notifications with a bored sigh. "Is this really necessary?" he asked. "She was fine earlier, Doctor." Reeves stared at him, stunned by his tone. "Your wife and your babies are in danger. We need your signature now." Cole scratched his jaw, pretending to think, but fear flickered behind his eyes. Fear not for Lily, but for the money he didn't want to spend. Lily reached toward him, tears forming. "Cole, please, I can't breathe." He stepped back. "I just need to understand what I'm paying for," he muttered. A nurse couldn't stop herself from whispering, "Sir, this isn't a store receipt." But Cole ignored her. He asked again about the cost, the risks, the chances of survival, as if he were calculating a business deal, not deciding the fate of his family. Then he did the unthinkable. He grabbed the clipboard, scanned the consent page, and signed the box marked "Refuse Surgical Intervention." The entire room froze. Dr. Reeves's jaw clenched. Lily's eyes widened in horror, her voice cracking as she tried to sit up. "Cole, why?" He didn't answer. He just tapped his phone and walked out, leaving Lily gasping for air as alarms began to sound. Staff rushed in, voices rising, machines beeping wildly, and just as the chaos peaked, the elevator doors slid open, revealing a man in a dark military uniform, his expression carved from steel. No one recognized him at first, but his presence shifted the entire room, as if authority itself had walked in from the storm outside. Nurses straightened instinctively, and even the monitors seemed to quiet. He removed his gloves slowly, eyes fixed on Lily, studying her face with a mix of disbelief and rising fury, as though he were looking at someone he had spent a lifetime searching for before. He stepped forward and said something that made every person in the room go silent. Cole Thatcher didn't walk out of Mercy Tower Hospital because he was overwhelmed or terrified. He walked out with the confident stride of a man who believed he had solved a problem. Outside, the storm slapped against his face as he hurried toward his black Toyota, checking his phone with hands that trembled for reasons unrelated to love. Notifications lit the screen, missed calls from loan sharks, messages from anonymous numbers demanding repayment, and, buried between them, a text from Savannah Quinn that made him smirk. "Did you talk to insurance?" she wrote, followed by a heart emoji. Cole typed back, handling it. "Everything's going to work out." In truth, everything was coming apart. He had blown their savings on online gambling, convinced he could flip a small win into a fortune. Instead, he ended up owing $180,000 to men who didn't care about excuses. For weeks, he had hidden the letters, the threats, the late-night calls. Lily had noticed his anxiety, but she was too sick and too exhausted to imagine the truth. Cole saw her weakened body as an exit, a way to escape the wolves closing in on him. If she didn't survive the birth, the life insurance payout would clear his debts and open the future he thought he deserved. He didn't know he had been watched. As he reached his car, a figure in a black raincoat stepped from the shadows. Cole flinched. It wasn't a loan shark, but Dr. Mason Reeves. The doctor's eyes were sharp, almost accusing. "You left awfully fast," Mason said. Cole forced a laugh. "Family emergencies. You know how it is." Mason stared at him for several seconds, then replied, "Your wife's condition is deteriorating. We needed your consent. You gave us something else." Cole shrugged as though discussing a spilled drink. "I trust your judgment. Do what you think is right." But the doctor didn't move aside. Rain poured between them like a curtain. You didn't even ask if the babies are okay, Mason said. Cole bristled. The doctor's tone was too calm, too controlled, the kind a man uses when he already knows the truth. Cole pushed past him, muttering something about calling later. Mason watched him leave with the unsettling certainty that something about this husband was deeply wrong. Back inside the hospital, Lily's monitor alarms echoed through the corridors. Nurses rushed to stabilize her, but panic spread. Dr. Reeves called for immediate preparations despite the lack of proper consent. He stepped into the hallway only to see the military commander again, the stern, broad-shouldered man whose presence had frozen the entire emergency bay. The commander was speaking quietly with a nurse, pointing at Lily's chart, and every staff member looked at him with a mixture of respect and fear. Mason approached. "Sir, I don't know who you are, but—" The man turned, revealing eyes filled with a fury so controlled it felt colder than the rain outside. "I'm Adrian Wolfe," he said. "And that woman in there is my sister." Mason froze. "But her paperwork—" "I don't care what her paperwork says," Adrian snapped, his voice low but lethal. "I recognize the necklace. I recognized her face. I lost her once, and I won't lose her again." Before Mason could respond, an alarm blared louder than before. A nurse burst from Lily's room, shouting, "Her blood pressure is crashing. We're losing her." The hallway outside Lily's room vibrated with tension. Nurses sprinted back and forth, monitors beeped in frantic rhythms, and the storm outside banged against the windows like fists demanding to be let in. Adrian Wolfe stood completely still in the middle of it all, his jaw locked, his gloved hands clenched as if restraining a lifetime of fury. For 30 years, he had believed his little sister died in a house fire. He had mourned her as a 3-year-old lost to tragedy. Yet here she was alive, fighting for her life, and the man who vowed to protect her had abandoned her in the most brutal way possible. Adrian felt something rip open inside him, something he had buried under discipline and rank. The same instinct that had made him a commander, the instinct to protect, now roared like a beast. Dr. Mason Reeves hurried beside him. "Commander Wolfe, her pressure keeps dropping. We can't wait for paperwork. We need consent from immediate family." Adrian didn't hesitate. "You have it." Mason studied him. "Sir, legally." Adrian pulled out a worn leather wallet and showed the small, aged photograph he carried for decades. It showed a little girl with dark curls wearing the same droplet-shaped necklace Lily had on her chest. "This was taken 3 weeks before the fire," Adrian said quietly. "That necklace was custom-made. There is only one." The doctor swallowed, the truth settling heavily. "You're really her brother." "I am," Adrian answered. "And that means you go in there and save her." Before Mason could respond, Lily's monitor let out a long, piercing alarm. Nurses shouted, "She's losing consciousness." Adrian rushed to the doorway, stopping just before the sterile zone. Through the glass, he saw Lily's pale face turn ghost-like, her lips trembling as she whispered something no one could hear. A nurse leaned close and repeated it out loud. "She's asking if her babies are alive." Adrian felt his throat tighten. Mason stormed into the room, barking orders. "Get epinephrine ready! Move! Move!" But chaos spread faster than action. A line kinked, a monitor flashed, a nurse slipped trying to adjust equipment. Adrian's eyes darted around the room, assessing the disarray, the panic, the precious seconds wasting away. It was the kind of moment he had trained his whole life to handle, except this wasn't a battlefield. This was blood of his blood. He forced himself not to break protocol and step inside, but he couldn't stay silent. "Focus," he commanded through the glass. "You're a trained team. Use it." His voice, sharp as a blade, cut through the noise. Nurses straightened. Mason regained control. A new rhythm settled, swift, purposeful, controlled. "We're intubating now," Mason announced. "Prep for emergency C-section." Adrian's breath stilled. C-section meant danger for Lily, and for the twins who weren't ready to enter the world. A nurse ran out of the room to grab surgical supplies. Adrian stopped her. "Tell me the truth," he said. "Can she make it?" The nurse hesitated, eyes shimmering with worry. "She's very weak. One of the twins has almost no oxygen flow. If we don't move fast," her voice broke, "we might lose all 3. Those words detonated inside Adrian. Lose all 3. Lose Lily again. Lose children he had never met. Lose the last piece of family he had. Outside, the storm intensified, as if echoing the turmoil within him. Then, through the chaos, Adrian noticed something, a shadow moving down the hall. Wet shoes squeaked. A familiar figure appeared. Cole Thatcher had come back. But not for Lily. He was on the phone, whispering frantically. "I told you, it's happening. Stop calling me. I signed the paper. I did what I had to do." Adrian's eyes narrowed. Cole didn't see him. But he would. Because in the next few seconds, Adrian Wolfe started walking toward him, each step heavy with a fury that could break a man in half. And Cole finally looked up, just as Adrian reached him. Cole Thatcher froze when he saw the towering figure of Adrian Wolfe moving toward him with the cold precision of a man accustomed to ending crises and men without raising his voice. The hallway lights flickered from the storm outside, throwing harsh shadows across the commander's face. Cole's phone slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor. For a second, neither man spoke. It was the kind of silence that cracked bones. Adrian stopped only inches from Cole, close enough that Cole could feel the heat of restrained anger radiating off him. "You," Adrian said quietly, "are her husband." The softness of the question only made it more terrifying. Cole's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping on dry land. I'm just trying to handle things. The doctor said she was stable earlier. I didn't know it was this serious." Adrian stepped closer, voice low. "You signed a refusal for emergency surgery." He held up the crumpled copy of the form, the ink still wet where Cole had scrawled his signature. "This isn't confusion. This is abandonment." Cole reached for the paper, but Adrian pulled it back. "Tell me why you did it." Cole looked around desperately, searching for a sympathetic face. But hospital staff passing through the hall stared at him with disgust. His excuses dried up. "You don't understand," he stammered. "We don't have money for this." They were throwing numbers around 70,000, 100,000. "I'm drowning in bills." Anyone would panic. Adrian's eyes hardened. Anyone with a soul would choose their family over their wallet. Cole's voice cracked. "You don't know what it's like. I'm trapped. But Adrian cut him off. "I know exactly what it's like to lose someone you love. I lost Lily once already." He leaned in slightly. "I will not lose her again, especially not because of you." Cole's face drained of color. He tried one last lie. "I planned to come back and sign. I was just getting fresh air thinking." But Adrian simply stared. A man who commanded troops didn't need to raise his voice to reveal truth. Cole's words wilted under the weight of that silence. Down the hall, a nurse burst out of Lily's room. "Commander Wolfe, the baby's oxygen levels are dropping. We need to take her to surgery right now." Adrian turned instantly, but before he followed, he said to Cole, "Stay here." It wasn't a suggestion. But Cole, being Cole, did the opposite. As Adrian strode toward the surgical area, Cole slipped away toward the elevators. His footsteps quickened. He needed to get out, needed to distance himself from whatever was happening. He whispered under his breath, "If she dies, the insurance solves everything. If she lives, the debt kills me." His phone buzzed again. Savannah's name lit the screen. He didn't answer. He pushed the elevator button repeatedly, panic making his hands shake. He didn't notice the receptionist watching him. She whispered into a small phone, "Commander Wolfe? He's trying to leave." Adrian appeared seconds later. The elevator doors opened. Cole stepped forward only to find Adrian's hand blocking the door. The commander's voice was calm, steady. "Leaving while your wife is dying?" Cole's throat tightened. I'm going to get food. I haven't eaten. I need to think straight." "You've done enough thinking," Adrian said. "You're staying." Cole swallowed hard. "You can't force me." Adrian leaned in, his voice low but edged with ice. "You're right. I can't force you. But I can make sure every doctor, every nurse, every officer who walks by knows exactly what kind of man you are." Cole's chest rose and fell rapidly. He stepped back from the elevator, defeated. Adrian motioned toward the waiting chairs. "Sit." Cole obeyed. A moment later, Dr. Reeves rushed down the hall, shouting, "Commander Wolfe, we're moving her. This is it. She's fading fast." Adrian turned to follow him, and Cole whispered something under his breath that would change everything. Cole's whisper slithered into the air like poison. Adrian heard it, even over the alarms and rushing footsteps. "If she dies," Cole muttered to himself, "at least something good comes out of it." Adrian stopped cold. He turned his head slowly, his face carved from stone. Cole froze under the weight of that stare. But before Adrian could confront him, Doctor. Mason Reeves called out again. Commander, we're losing both babies' heartbeats. We need to go now. The urgency in his voice tore Adrian away from the moment. He would deal with Cole later. For now, Lily and the 2 lives she carried came first. Adrian sprinted down the hall beside the medical team as they rushed Lily on a gurney toward the surgical wing. Her skin looked almost translucent, drenched in sweat, lips pale and quivering, tubes tangled around her like vines. Her breaths came in weak, shallow pulls. The storm outside thundered, shaking the windows, matching the war inside Adrian's chest. Stay with me, Lily, he whispered, keeping his hand near hers even though he couldn't touch her inside the sterile zone. I found you once. I'm not losing you now. The team burst through the double doors of the operating room. Nurses scrambled, prepping instruments. A surgical tech adjusted the overhead lights while Dr. Reeves barked orders with controlled authority. Blood pressure? Dropping. Fetal heartbeats? One barely detectable, one fading fast. Adrian watched through the observation glass, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles blanched. The red surgery in progress light flashed above the doors. Everything inside him screamed to break through, to take over, to save her with his own hands. But here, he had no power except his presence and his will. Inside the OR, Lily's eyes fluttered open for a brief second. She turned her head slightly toward the window, toward the shape of Adrian watching her. Mason leaned down. Lily, can you hear me? Her lips trembled. My babies, please. We're doing everything we can, Mason assured. As anesthesia took hold, Lily whispered one last word, Adrian's name, before slipping under completely. Then the operation began. Scalpels moved. Machines beeped with ruthless urgency. Mason and 2 surgeons worked around Lily's fragile body with precision and speed. Sweat dripped down Mason's forehead behind his mask. We need to deliver now. Clamp, suction, increase oxygen flow. Suddenly, one of the monitors let out a shrill alarm. A nurse gasped. She's crashing again. Adrian slammed his hand against the glass. Fight, Lily. But the OR team didn't panic. Mason adjusted quickly, shouted for a crash cart, and pushed a dose of medication into her IV. Come on, he muttered. For a terrifying moment, Lily's heart rhythm flatlined, just a thin, endless line across the screen. Adrian's breath stopped. Then, a blip, another, a rhythm. Mason exhaled. We got her. Move, deliver, baby A. A small, premature cry pierced the room. Weak, fragile, but real. Adrian felt his chest loosen for one breath. Then chaos struck again. Baby B's heartbeat is gone, a nurse shouted. We can't find it. Mason's voice rose. We're not losing this child. Increase suction. Retract now. The team moved like lightning. Outside, Adrian's pulse thundered. At the far end of the hall, Cole watched the scene unfold, not with concern, but with dawning fear. If Lily and both babies survived, his lies would unravel. His debts would crush him. Savannah would leave. Everything he tried to secure through betrayal would collapse. He took a step backward toward the stairwell. He was planning to run. But before he could escape, another voice behind him said coldly, "Going somewhere, Mr. Thatcher?" Cole spun around to see a hospital security officer and 2 military MPs standing beside him. Adrian had already prepared for this moment. Back in the OR, the second baby finally cried. Barely. Soft, but alive. And Mason whispered, "We saved them, for now." Right before an unexpected complication sent the room into full-blown chaos once more. Inside the operating room, as the second baby's faint cry faded into the frantic rhythm of alarms, the atmosphere shifted from relief to panic. A nurse glanced up at the monitor, her voice trembling. "She's bleeding too fast. Pressure is dropping again." Dr. Mason Reeves stiffened. Lily had already been pushed to the brink twice. This was the moment that could steal her away forever. "Get more units of blood," Mason ordered. "Increase fluids. I need clamps, now, move." Outside the glass, Adrian Wolfe felt a cold wind rush through him, even though the hallway was sealed. His breath fogged against the observation window as he leaned closer, eyes locked on Lily's fragile form. She looked impossibly small beneath the surgical lights. A lifetime lost, a lifetime missed, and now she was slipping away again right in front of him. He pressed his palm to the glass. "Lily, don't go." But inside, things were spiraling. A surgical tech called out, "Her heart rhythm is unstable." Another, "We're losing pulse." For a moment, it felt like the whole room was holding its breath. Mason worked with calm precision, guiding the team, refusing to show the terror that lived behind his eyes. He'd treated thousands of patients, saved lives in impossible circumstances, but something about Lily weighed heavier. Maybe it was the way she had whispered his name before the anesthesia. Maybe it was the fact that she had come in alone, abandoned. Or maybe it was the man outside the glass, radiating a desperate love only family carried. In the hall, Adrian could barely hear anything except the pounding inside his skull. The storm outside clashed violently against the windows, thunder booming like war drums. His mind flashed back to the night he lost his family, the smoke, the flames, the moment he thought his baby sister had died. He had spent years searching, hoping, failing, and now fate had brought her back only to threaten to take her again. He wasn't aware his hands were shaking until a nurse approached. "Commander Wolf, maybe you should sit." He didn't move. "She's fighting," he said quietly. "I know she is." Down the hall, Cole Thatcher sat between the two military MPs, anxiety eating him alive. He kept pulling at his shirt collar, sweat dripping despite the freezing air conditioning. His mind raced debts, insurance, Savannah, the betrayal he thought he'd gotten away with. Everything was collapsing. He muttered, "This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to make it this far." One of the MPs shot him a look. "What did you just say?" Cole swallowed hard. "Nothing. I didn't mean..." He couldn't finish. Back at the OR window, Adrian suddenly noticed Mason performing manual compressions. Panic clenched his chest. "No, no," he whispered. Another nurse stepped out and ran toward the blood bank. "We need more units for Hartman. Emergency." The name echoed in Adrian's ears. Hartman. Wolf. Sister. Inside, Mason barked, "Clear." The team stepped back as he shocked her heart. Lily's body jolted slightly. No response. Again. Another shock. Still nothing. Adrian felt something inside him break. He slammed his fist against the glass, voice cracking. "Fight, Lily, fight." Nurses turned toward the sound, but Mason didn't stop. He refused to lose her. Then, a small blip. Another. A rhythm. "She's back," a nurse shouted. "Pulse returning." Adrian exhaled a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. His shoulders sagged. For the first time since the nightmare began, hope flickered. But it didn't last. Mason suddenly froze. "Wait, her uterus isn't contracting. She's still bleeding internally. Prep for hysterectomy." A hush fell. Even outside, Adrian felt the weight of those words. A hysterectomy meant Lily would survive, but she would never carry another child. He staggered back, struck by the cruelty of it all. Finally, she had found family, safety, children, and fate demanded another sacrifice. Inside, Mason's voice rose again. "If we don't do this, she won't make it. Move." As the surgical team prepared for the life-altering procedure, the storm outside reached its peak, thunder cracking so loud it shook the building. And down the hall, Cole whispered a sentence that made the MP beside him stiffen. "If she can't have more kids, that insurance better be worth the trouble." He didn't know the MP had turned on his body cam. And he didn't know Adrian was walking toward him, having heard every word. Adrian Wolf moved toward Cole Thatcher with the slow, deliberate steps of a man who had crossed battlefields and survived them. But this betrayal cut deeper than any wound he had ever taken. The storm outside roared, shaking the windows along the surgical wing, but it was nothing compared to the storm rising inside him. Cole sat stiffly between the MPs, trying to look composed, but the tremor in his leg betrayed him. He saw Adrian approaching and paled, like a man watching his own sentence walk toward him. "You said something," Adrian said, voice low but carrying the weight of judgment. "Say it again." Cole tried to laugh it off. "Look, man, you're taking things out of context. I'm stressed. Anyone would say stupid stuff." Adrian stepped closer. "You said if she can't have more kids, the insurance better be worth it." Cole's breath caught. The MP to his left shifted, body cam light blinking red. Cole suddenly understood he wasn't just trapped, he was recorded. "I didn't mean it like that," he whispered. "You don't get it." "No," Adrian replied. "You don't get it. You don't get what love looks like, or loyalty, or basic humanity." Cole tried to stand, but the MP pressed him back into his seat. Adrian leaned forward just enough for Cole to feel the heat of anger radiating off him. You left her to die. You signed her life away. And now you sit here worrying about insurance? Cole's eyes darted around the hall, desperate. I was scared, all right? I'm in debt. People were threatening me. I didn't know what to do. Adrian didn't blink. So you chose the one person who trusted you as your sacrifice? Cole's voice broke. It wasn't supposed to go this far. If she died naturally, if the babies didn't make it, they would have called it complications. I wouldn't have to. Adrian grabbed the chair's back, knuckles whitening. You're confessing to hoping your wife would die. I never said that, Cole protested. You didn't need to, Adrian answered. Before Cole could respond, Dr. Mason Reeves appeared at the far end of the hall, his surgical gown stained from the intensity of the operation, mask hanging at his neck. His face was strained, exhausted, and carrying news heavy enough to quiet the space. Adrian turned instantly. How is she? Mason approached, pausing only when he stood directly in front of Adrian. She's alive, he said softly. Both twins are stable. One is very weak, but breathing. Adrian closed his eyes in relief. His shoulders dropped, a silent prayer escaping him. But when he opened his eyes again, Mason continued. We performed the hysterectomy. Adrian inhaled sharply. He knew, but hearing it out loud still hit like a blow. She'll never be able to carry another child, Mason said, but she will live. And your niece and nephew will live. For a moment, Adrian looked at the floor, letting the truth settle. Lily had lost enough in her life, her childhood, her identity, her family. Now she had lost something else, something she could never get back. Cole, stunned, whispered, Wait, they actually did it? They took? Mason turned toward him with cold, professional detachment. Your wife nearly died. Her body had no choice. Cole swallowed. So she lived? Yes, Mason said, in spite of you. The MPs exchanged glances. Cole slumped deeper into the chair, panic rising in his throat. Everything he'd gambled on was slipping through his fingers. Meanwhile, Mason touched Adrian's shoulder. She's in recovery. She'll need someone she trusts when she wakes, someone who's on her side. Adrian nodded. Take me to her. But before he followed, he turned back to Cole, who was shaking now, realizing his world was collapsing. Adrian spoke calmly, with a finality that made the air vibrate. You wanted her gone. He paused. Now you're the one who's finished. And as he walked away, the MPs received a call that would seal Cole's fate. Evidence of fraud, recorded threats, and the insurance investigation had officially begun. The recovery room was dim, quiet, and warm, the complete opposite of the storm still raging outside. Machines hummed steadily, their soft rhythms echoing like distant heartbeats. Lily lay unconscious, pale but alive, her chest rising and falling under a light hospital blanket. Her hair clung damply to her forehead, and her hands trembled slightly from the trauma her body had endured. Yet, even in weakness, there was something peaceful about her. Something unbroken. Adrian Wolfe stood at her bedside, his posture rigid, but his eyes softer than anyone in the hospital had seen. He removed his gloves, placed them on the small table beside her, and brushed a strand of hair away from her forehead with a gentle touch that contrasted sharply with the fierce commander everyone else knew. For a moment, he allowed himself to breathe, to feel something other than fear or rage. This woman, the sister he hadn't seen since she was 3, was alive, and he would make sure she stayed that way. Dr. Mason Reeves entered quietly, holding a tablet. He hesitated, watching the scene, then stepped closer. She'll wake soon, he said softly. Her vitals are stable, but she's weak. The blood loss, it will take time to recover. Adrian nodded. Then, after a long pause, he asked, What about the babies? Mason's face warmed with a rare smile. Both are in the neonatal unit. Baby A is breathing on his own. Baby B, your niece is small, but fighters run in your family, Commander. Adrian let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. I want to see them when she wakes. Not before. Mason nodded with respect. She'd want that. Silence settled between them. Then Mason shifted slightly, eyes lowered. There's something I need to tell you, before she wakes. Adrian straightened. What is it? Mason hesitated. During surgery, she kept whispering something. Through the oxygen mask, through the pain, she kept saying your name. Adrian blinked. She didn't even know I existed. She didn't, Mason agreed. But somehow, she felt you there. Like her body recognized you before her mind could. A lump formed in Adrian's throat, one he refused to acknowledge. "She's stronger than any soldier I've ever trained," he murmured. Before Mason could reply, Lily's fingers twitched. Then again. Her eyelids fluttered, struggling against the weight of sedation. Adrian leaned in instinctively. "Lily, Lily, it's Adrian. I'm here." Her eyes opened, unfocused at first, then slowly sharpening. She blinked several times, studying the man above her. "Adrian?" she whispered, voice raspy. He nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, I'm your brother." Her eyes filled instantly with tears, confusion, relief, disbelief, all flooding at once. "I thought I didn't have anyone." "You do," Adrian said. "You always did. I never stopped looking for you." A single tear rolled down her cheek. "My babies? They're alive," Adrian assured. "Safe, fighting, just like you." Her shoulders relaxed slightly, but then her expression twisted with something darker fear. "Cole, he said he'd be here. Did he?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "He's not coming into this room again." Before Lily could ask why, Mason stepped forward gently. "Lily, you need to rest. You're safe. Everything else can wait." But Lily shook her head weakly. "No. I need to know. He didn't sign, right?" Her eyes filled with dread. "He wouldn't let them save me?" Adrian took her hand carefully. "Lily, listen to me." She stared at him with fragile hope. "Cole tried to let you die," Adrian said quietly, carefully, truthfully, "but he failed. And now he will answer for everything." Lily gasped softly, a sound of heartbreak and betrayal deeper than any wound. She covered her face with trembling hands. "Why?" "I gave him everything." Mason touched her shoulder. "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Adrian added, "You're not alone. Not ever again." Lily lowered her hands slowly, looking between the two men who had saved her life, one by blood, one by choice. Something shifted inside her at that moment. She wasn't just a victim. She wasn't just a wife abandoned. She was someone worth fighting for. Someone who would rise. And Cole, a man who had gambled her life, had no idea what was coming for him. Because Lily Hartman was about to reclaim everything he tried to steal. Lily Hartman spent the next several hours in recovery, drifting in and out of consciousness as the effects of surgery slowly faded. The storm outside eased into a steady drizzle, the first sign of calm after the chaos that had nearly taken her life. But inside her chest, a very different storm began to rise, quiet, controlled, and fueled by something she hadn't felt in a long time. Resolve. Adrian sat beside her, arms crossed, posture protective. He didn't speak unless she initiated, giving her space to breathe, to think, to process. "Doctor." Mason Reeves checked on her often, adjusting her medications, explaining her condition gently so she wouldn't feel overwhelmed. But every time Mason spoke, Lily saw something behind his eyes, concern, warmth, a softness that didn't belong to a doctor alone. She didn't understand it yet. Not fully, but she felt it. Hours passed. Lily eventually asked to sit up, even though her body trembled with the effort. Mason helped adjust the bed, his hands steady on the controls. "Don't push too hard," he cautioned. "Your body's been through more than most people go through in a lifetime." Lily managed a weak smile. "I've been through worse than you think." Mason paused, studying her face the way someone examines a fragile artifact of unexpected strength. "I believe you," he said softly. Adrian stepped closer. "The babies want to meet you when you're ready." Instant tears filled Lily's eyes. "Take me to them," she whispered. Mason shook his head gently. "Not yet. You need to stand first, even if only for a few seconds." It sounded impossible. It felt impossible. Her body screamed exhaustion, her legs felt like rubber, and every breath reminded her of what she had lost. But something deeper than pain pushed her. She had two newborns waiting on the other side of that hallway. Two little souls who had fought with her. Adrian and Mason helped her swing her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet touched the cold floor, her knees buckled immediately, but both men caught her before she fell. "Again," Lily whispered, gripping Mason's arm. "You don't have to prove anything," Mason murmured. "Yes," Lily said, breathless. "I do. I need to walk to them. Even if it's just one step." She tried again. This time, her legs held shaking, but holding. Adrian steadied her from one side while Mason supported the other. Lily closed her eyes, inhaled slowly, and whispered to herself, "For them." Then she took a single, trembling step. Mason exhaled sharply, as if witnessing a miracle. Adrian's grip tightened with pride. Lily's voice cracked. "I can do it. I can go to my babies." She took another step, and another. Every inch felt like a mile, but she moved forward. Toward motherhood. Toward survival. Toward a future she had almost lost. But before they reached the neonatal unit doors, a voice echoed from down the hall, sharp, angry, familiar. Cole Thatcher. He was arguing with security, face red, hair wild from stress. "I have rights. She's my wife. You can't keep me from seeing her." Lily froze, breath stopping in her chest. Adrian stepped forward instantly, blocking her from view. "Stay behind me." But Mason didn't move. He stayed by her side, steady, protective. Security tried to calm Cole, but he only grew louder. "She owes me a conversation. She owes me the truth. You don't understand, my life is falling apart because of her." Lily's hands curled into fists. For the first time since waking, her voice carried strength. "No, Cole," she said. The hallway fell silent. Cole turned, shock splintering across his face. He hadn't expected her to be standing. He hadn't expected her to be alive. He hadn't expected her to be strong. Lily stepped from behind Adrian, leaning on Mason for balance but keeping her chin high. "You didn't lose your life because of me," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "You lost it because of what you chose." Cole stared at her as if seeing a ghost. "Lily, you were supposed to." He stopped before finishing, and that was enough. Adrian moved toward him. Mason stayed beside Lily. This moment, this shift, was Lily's first step toward reclaiming her power. And for the first time, Cole realized she wasn't the same woman he had tried to bury. The hallway felt charged with electricity the moment Lily Hartman spoke. Her voice soft, shaken, but unmistakably alive, cut through Cole Thatcher's rant like a blade. He turned toward her slowly, as if his mind couldn't process what he was seeing. The wife he had tried to abandon, the woman he assumed would die quietly so his debts would disappear, was standing in front of him, pale, trembling, barely held up by Dr. Mason Reeves but alive, and strong enough to face him. "Lily," Cole whispered, You're walking?" She steadied herself against Mason's arm. "Not because of you, never because of you." Cole swallowed hard. "You weren't supposed to be out of surgery yet. They said you were critical. You thought I'd die," Lily said bluntly. "That's what you were counting on." Cole stiffened. His eyes darted around the hallway, searching for sympathy, but every nurse, doctor, and staff member glared at him with disgust. He looked small, shrinking more with every second. Adrian Wolfe stepped forward, broad shoulders blocking part of the hallway. "Don't speak to her unless she requests it," he growled. But Lily raised a trembling hand. "I want to hear what he has to say." "Let him talk." Cole tried to smile, but the expression cracked. "Lily, please, things got out of hand. I was stressed. I was scared. You don't know what it's like to owe people money. I panicked." "You signed my death," Lily whispered. "That wasn't panic. That was a choice." Cole ran his hands through his hair, pacing. "You don't understand. I had no way out. I was drowning. I needed something to break the cycle. If the insurance came through, everything would stabilize. I could support you better afterward. It was temporary." Even the MPs stared at him in disbelief. One muttered, "Unbelievable." Lily's voice wavered, but her gaze stayed firm. "You were willing to kill me to save yourself." Cole slammed his fist against the wall. "I didn't kill you. You're right here, aren't you?" That sentence, those cruel, tone-deaf words, landed like a slap across the entire hall. Adrian took one step forward, but Lily shook her head. She wanted to speak herself. "Cole," she said softly, "I lost the ability to ever carry another child today. I nearly died. Our babies nearly died. And all you cared about was a check." Cole froze, mouth open. Mason placed a steadying hand on Lily's back. She leaned into him for balance, but her eyes never left Cole. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed the 2 lives you helped create." Something in Cole snapped. "Those kids ruined my life," he blurted. "Do you know what it's like having 2 babies coming when you're broke? Do you know how much pressure that is? You trapped me." The hallway gasped in unison. Adrian's voice dropped to lethal softness. "Say that again." Cole backed up, realizing too late he was stepping directly toward the MPs. I didn't mean," but they were already reaching for him. One MP spoke firmly. "Cole Thatcher, you're being detained for questioning regarding insurance fraud, reckless endangerment, and recorded statements suggesting intent to cause harm." Cole panicked. "No, no, no, you can't arrest me. I didn't do anything." "You tried," Adrian growled. As the MPs cuffed him, Cole turned one last desperate look toward Lily. "Baby, please, you know I love you. Tell them I'm not a bad person. Tell them." Lily stared at him, really stared, as if seeing the truth for the first time. "I don't know who you are," she said quietly, "but you're not my husband anymore." Those words broke him more than the handcuffs. He sagged between the MPs, defeated, exposed, finished. They escorted him away, his protests echoing uselessly down the hall. Lily inhaled shakily, the weight of everything sinking in at once. Mason wrapped an arm around her shoulders to steady her. Adrian stepped closer, protective and proud. And for the first time, since this nightmare began, Lily Hartman felt free. The moment Cole Thatcher disappeared around the corner, dragged between two stone-faced MPs, the entire hallway felt 10 degrees warmer. It was as if the building itself took a breath it had been holding since Lily Hartman was rushed in on a stretcher. But for Lily, the shift was deeper, like a door inside her had opened for the first time in years, letting in air she hadn't known she was suffocating without. Her legs shook violently beneath her, the adrenaline draining away. Mason tightened his arm around her back. "Easy," he murmured. "You've pushed far beyond what your body can handle. Let's get you seated before you collapse." Lily nodded, her throat tight. She hated how weak she felt physically, but emotionally, mentally, something powerful was budding inside her, something she hadn't felt since childhood. Strength, freedom, identity. Adrian stepped in front of her, offering his hand. His usually stern expression had softened with something almost fragile relief. "Let me carry you," he said gently. "You don't have to stand another second if it hurts." But Lily shook her head. "I need to stay on my feet. Just for one more minute." Adrian exchanged a look with Mason, one of respect, not disagreement. Mason didn't try to convince her otherwise. Instead, he adjusted his support, letting her keep her independence while still keeping her safe. A nurse wheeled a chair toward them, but Lily raised a weak hand. "Please, let me say something first." Mason paused. Adrian stayed beside her, protective yet patient. Lily turned her head slowly, taking in the faces around her, nurses she had seen in passing, staff who had fought for her life, strangers who had witnessed her lowest moment and her strongest one within the same hour. Tears filled her eyes, soft but meaningful. "Thank you," she whispered. "All of you, for saving me, for saving my babies." One nurse stepped forward, blinking back emotion. "You saved yourself, honey. We just helped." Another added, "You're one of the bravest mothers I've ever seen walk through those doors." Lily's lip trembled. She had never thought of herself as brave. She had only thought of surviving. But sometimes, she realized, those were the same thing. Finally allowing herself to sit, she lowered into the wheelchair with a sharp breath. Mason crouched in front of her, adjusting her IV line. Their eyes met her exhaustion, his concern, and something unspoken passing quietly between them. "You didn't have to hold me up back there," she murmured, "but you did." Mason's voice dropped to a softness she hadn't heard from him before. "I wasn't going to let you fall. Not today. Not ever again if I can help it." Adrian cleared his throat softly, not out of jealousy but acknowledgement. Lily didn't see it, but Mason did. Then Adrian stepped closer. "Lily, before we go see the babies, there's something I want you to know." She looked up, eyes tired but focused. "I spent 30 years thinking you were gone," Adrian said, his voice steadier than she'd ever heard it. "I looked for you in every city I traveled to. Every crowd. Every child that reminded me of you. I told myself that if I ever found you, I wouldn't lose you again." Lily's breath caught. Adrian knelt beside her, not as a commander, not as a soldier, but as a brother. Her brother. "Your family," he said quietly. "You're safe. And I'm not going anywhere. Not now. Not ever." Lily's tears fell freely now, but they were different from the tears she cried earlier. These felt like healing. Like promises kept after decades of pain. She reached for Adrian's hand. He squeezed it gently. Then Mason touched her shoulder. "Are you ready to meet your babies?" A soft, trembling smile broke across Lily's face, the first real smile she'd shown since entering the hospital. Yes, she whispered. Take me to them. And as they pushed her wheelchair toward the neonatal unit, none of them knew that another twist, one that would change everything again, waited just behind those glass doors. The neonatal intensive care unit glowed with soft blue lights, the kind designed to keep newborns calm and shielded from the harsh world waiting outside. As the automatic doors slid open, Lily Hartman felt her heartbeat shift too fast, too full, too fragile. Adrian walked beside her wheelchair with protective weight, while Dr. Mason Reeves pushed slowly, giving her time to breathe, to steady herself, to prepare for the moment she'd nearly died for. Inside the NICU, two small incubators stood close together, each surrounded by wires, monitors, and the gentle hum of machines keeping her newborns safe. Nurses moved quietly, almost reverently, acknowledging Lily with warm smiles. One stepped forward, a kind-looking woman with soft eyes. "Mrs. Hartman," she whispered, "would you like to meet your son and daughter?" Lily's breath hitched. "Yes," she whispered, her hands trembling uncontrollably. "Yes, please." Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder. Mason crouched beside her, steadying her as emotions shook her entire frame. Lily wasn't afraid of breaking, she had already been broken. What terrified her was the fear that all of this wasn't real, that she would blink and wake up in a world where her babies never made it. The nurse led them to the first incubator. "This is baby A," she said softly, "your son." Lily leaned forward, gripping the sides of her wheelchair. And there, he was tiny, delicate, wrapped in tubes and warmth, but alive. His chest rose and fell with fragile determination. A tuft of dark hair curled against his forehead. His tiny hand twitched, as if reaching for something only newborns could sense. Lily's tears fell instantly. He's perfect," she whispered, barely breathing. Adrian wiped his eyes before anyone noticed. "He looks strong," he said hoarsely, "just like you." Mason leaned closer. "He stabilized faster than we expected. He's a fighter." The nurse smiled. "Would you like to touch him?" Lily gasped softly. "Can I? With all the tubes?" "2 fingers, gently through the port," the nurse instructed. Lily slid her trembling hand inside. When her fingertip brushed her son's palm, his tiny fingers curled around her with surprising strength. She sobbed quietly, raw, grateful, overwhelmed. "Hi, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Even Adrian had to look away. Then the nurse motioned toward the second incubator. "And now, your daughter." Lily nodded, chest tight, heart pounding. If baby A took her breath away, baby B nearly shattered her. The little girl was even smaller, her skin translucent, her breaths barely visible. A soft knitted cap, pink and white, covered her fragile head. "She had a harder time," the nurse whispered, "but she's holding on." Lily's world tilted. "She looks like she's fighting so hard." Mason stepped close. "She is. She surprised all of us." Adrian added, "She's a wolf. Fighting is in her blood." Lily leaned in and whispered, "Mommy's here. Baby girl, I'm so proud of you." The baby's tiny chest fluttered, as if responding to her voice. But just as the moment settled into something miraculous, something healing, another nurse hurried toward them, holding a clipboard and wearing a troubled expression. "Dr. Reeves," she said, breathless, "there's an issue." Mason straightened. "What issue?" "It's baby B," the nurse said. A routine test result came in. Something unexpected showed up. Lily felt her stomach drop. "What? What do you mean?" The nurse hesitated, glancing at Adrian, then Mason. "Her blood type, it doesn't match yours." Lily blinked, confused. "What? That doesn't make sense. Cole and I?" "No," the nurse said quietly. "It doesn't match Cole either." Silence slammed into the room like a sudden winter chill. Adrian stepped forward slowly. "What are you saying?" The nurse took a shaky breath. "I'm saying, baby B's blood type is genetically impossible with both parents listed. Which means," she looked directly at Lily, "someone else is the father." Lily's mouth went dry. Impossible. Cole was the only. But then she remembered. A night months ago. A night Cole went missing. A night she woke up dizzy, confused, unable to remember falling asleep. Adrian knelt beside her. "Lily, look at me. Do you think Cole?" I don't know," she whispered, panic rising. "But if he wasn't the father, then who?" Mason placed a hand on her arm, voice calm but tense. "Lily, there's something even more important." She turned to him, breath shaking. The test flagged a genetic marker, he said. One that matches someone else in this room. Lily's eyes widened. Adrian's breath stopped. And Mason finished the sentence softly. Baby B is biologically connected to your family, Commander Wolf. For a long, breathless moment, no one in the NICU moved. Machines hummed, monitors blinked, and the soft rise and fall of two tiny newborn chests carried on, but the room itself seemed to freeze. Lily Hartman stared at Dr. Mason Reeves with wide, disbelieving eyes, the words replaying in her mind like a broken echo. Baby B is biologically connected to your family, Commander Wolf. Adrian Wolf didn't blink, didn't breathe. His hand hovered over Lily's shoulder, steady but shocked. Explain, he said, his voice low and sharp but not angry, confused, protective, bracing for something that made no sense. Mason took a slow breath. The blood test flagged a genetic marker, an extremely rare autosomal recessive variant found almost exclusively among wolf lineage. The probability of coincidence is microscopic. Lily's stomach twisted. Are you saying? Adrian is no. Her voice cracked. That's impossible. That's not what you're implying, right? He's my brother. No, Mason said quickly, shaking his head. No one is saying anything inappropriate. This is not about paternity. It's about ancestry. He pulled up the chart. Baby B's marker proves something different. Something about you, Lily. Lily blinked. Me? The nurse interjected gently. This marker only appears in children who inherit it from both parents. That means the baby received one copy from you and one from someone related to Commander Wolf. The world tilted. Adrian took a step back, as if struck by a memory. But that would mean Lily shares wolf blood, not by adoption, not by accident. His voice wavered for the first time in years. It means she's my biological sister, not just assumed, not just possible, proven. Mason nodded. The test confirms Lily's genetic connection to the wolf line, which means before anything else, you were right, Commander. She really is your sister. The news hit Lily like a wave. All her life she'd believed she was alone, an orphan in the system, a girl with no roots, no real home, no one who wanted her. And now, this? She covered her face, shaking. I'm really part of a family? Adrian knelt beside her wheelchair, voice breaking. You always were, but now there's proof. His hand hovered before gently resting over hers. I didn't lose you, not in the fire, not in the system, not to him. Lily, you survived. You survived everything. She sobbed softly, relief, grief, joy, all tangled into one overwhelming rush. But then her expression changed. Confusion, worry, fear. Wait, she whispered. If Baby B inherited the marker, and I have it, then Cole can't be the father. Her voice trembled. Then who is? Adrian's jaw tightened. We're going to find out. But first, you need to breathe. Mason glanced at the door and lowered his voice. There's another part you need to hear, and it's urgent. Lily wiped her tears. Tell me. Mason leaned closer. The marker is so rare that only a handful of wolf relatives could be carriers. And one of them. He glanced at Adrian. Commander, do you remember filing DNA for medical compatibility during your unit's humanitarian mission 8 months ago? Adrian nodded slowly. Yes. Why? Mason continued. Your cousin Eli Wolf was stationed in New York around that time. He was a registered donor at this hospital. There was an incident months ago where Lily came in for dehydration. She fainted. Do you remember? Lily nodded faintly. I remember bits. Cole wasn't there. A nurse said a stranger brought me in. I always thought she meant a passerby. Mason finished gently. That man was Eli. He signed consent as a good Samaritan and left before you woke. He didn't know who you were. You didn't know who he was. Lily's eyes widened. And the baby? Mason nodded. The genetic marker shows he's the biological father. Adrian exhaled slowly. Not angry. Shocked. Processing. Lily shook her head, dizzy. But nothing happened between us. I would remember. Mason held up a hand. No one is suggesting anything inappropriate. But during your collapse, Eli assisted. There was an emergency transfusion. A transfusion using his blood. An extremely rare scenario, but medically documented. Lily's breathing steadied as she understood. So, Baby B inherited his marker through the transfusion that saved my life? Yes, Mason said. It's medically rare, but possible. And in your weakened pregnancy state, her DNA incorporated a fragment of his lineage marker. It doesn't change her father, and it doesn't make anything improper. But it does make one thing clear. He pointed at her daughter. She carries the wolf line. Adrian stepped beside the incubator, staring at the tiny girl. His voice softened with awe. She's family. Lily sobbed again, this time from relief. Then, Mason added, but we have one more problem. Everyone turned toward him. There's a legal complication tied to the donor file, Mason said, one that could threaten custody if we don't act fast. Lily's heart dropped. And before Mason could explain further, a new silhouette appeared in the NICU doorway, one that would shift everything once again. The soft beeping of monitors filled the NICU as every head turned toward the doorway. Framed in the glowing corridor lights stood a tall man in a navy jacket, rainwater still dripping from his hair and shoulders. His presence wasn't threatening, just unexpected, familiar, and heavy with something unspoken. Adrian Wolf straightened instantly, eyes narrowing. Eli? The man stepped fully inside, removing his hood. He looked younger than Adrian, but carried the same sharp jawline, the same deep-set eyes, a wolf unmistakably. His expression flickered between guilt, worry, and something deeply protective. Adrian, Eli Wolf said quietly. I came as soon as I got the call. Lily's breath caught. This was the man whose blood had saved her. The man tied without intention to her daughter's genetic marker, the cousin her brother trusted. Adrian moved forward. How did you even know? Eli glanced at Mason. He contacted me. Said there was a complication with a past donation. Mason stepped in carefully. Commander Wolf, Lily, Eli needed to be here. The hospital requires clarification about the genetic marker and the donor file. It's standard protocol when unexpected lineage flags appear. Lily tightened her grip on the armrest of her wheelchair. Is my daughter in trouble? Eli's eyes softened. No, absolutely not. I'm here to make sure she isn't. But tension simmered anyway. Adrian crossed his arms. Explain, all of it. Eli approached slowly, respecting the space around Lily and the infants. Months ago, I was stationed in Brooklyn. I saw a woman collapse near the hospital entrance, weak, pale, dehydrated. I didn't know her name. I didn't know anything. I just carried her inside. I signed the emergency consent because there was no one else with her. Lily swallowed hard. I remember flashes. Someone holding me upright. Someone telling me I would be okay. That was you. Eli nodded. The doctors needed a compatible donor for a fast transfusion, and I happened to match. I left before you woke, figured you had people who'd show up. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. His eyes drifted toward the tiny girl in the incubator. When Dr. Reeves called me an hour ago, I almost didn't believe it. Adrian exhaled sharply, tension leaving his shoulders. So the genetic marker was accidental. Yes, Eli said firmly. I would never cross a line with a patient, a stranger, or, his gaze flicked to Lily, respectful, especially not the mother of newborns. Lily let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. A weight lifted, but only for a second. Mason cleared his throat, bringing back the seriousness. There's still the legal issue. Eli immediately stepped closer. And that's why I'm here. The donor file wasn't confidential, it listed my name. Because of that, Child Protective Services flagged baby B's test results. Adrian stiffened. Flagged? Why? Mason handed him a tablet. They're questioning whether the newborn might have a second paternal claim due to the genetic marker, despite it being medically unrelated to conception. They don't understand the science, and with Lily's near death and Cole's arrest, they're being overly cautious. Lily felt her chest tighten. They think she doesn't fully belong to me? Mason shook his head. You're her mother, that's unquestionable, but CPS needs clarity to ensure no unusual custody conflicts exist. Eli stepped forward instantly. I'll sign whatever they want. I'll testify. I'll give DNA. I'll confirm the transfusion. I'll do anything to protect her. Lily looked up at him, this stranger who had unknowingly saved her life and touched her child's lineage. There was something honest in his eyes, something steady, but Adrian still wasn't satisfied. CPS already contacted you. Yes, Eli admitted. They're sending a representative tonight. Tonight? Lily gasped. I'm barely awake from surgery. I haven't even held my babies yet. Mason crouched beside her. We're not going to let anyone take advantage of your condition. We'll protect you. Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder. I won't let anyone threaten what's yours. You have my word. Lily's voice shook. What do I do? Before anyone could answer, the NICU door opened again. A woman in a gray blazer stepped inside, carrying a tablet and wearing a badge reading, Child Protective Services. Her eyes scanned the room with professional calm until they landed on Lily. Mrs. Hartman, she said gently, I'm here to discuss the custody review for your newborn daughter. Lily's blood ran cold. Mason whispered, Stay calm, we'll handle this. Adrian moved protectively to her side. Eli stood ready to testify. But Lily, weak, shaking, overwhelmed, felt the room closing in. Because after surviving death, she was now forced to fight for the right to keep her own child. The CPS representative, Miss Dana Whitfield, stepped fully into the NICU, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. She had the calm, measured presence of someone used to walking into emotional crises. Her blazer was immaculate, her hair neatly tied, her expression professional but not unkind. Still, her appearance alone made Lily's heart pound. This wasn't a doctor. This wasn't family. This was someone with the power to decide her children's future. Dana approached slowly. Mrs. Hartman, I know this is a difficult moment. I'm not here to cause harm. I'm here because protocol requires us to evaluate certain irregularities in your newborn's genetic screening. Lily gripped the armrests of her wheelchair until her knuckles whitened. Irregularities? She whispered. I don't understand. Dana opened her tablet. Baby B's marker flagged a potential genetic inconsistency that raised questions regarding paternal lineage. When combined with your medical emergency, the absence of a stable father, and the arrest of Mr. Thatcher, it creates a situation we must review. Adrian stiffened. Review? What exactly? Dana didn't flinch. Custody, stability, safety, long-term placement. Lily felt as if someone had struck her chest. You think I'm unfit? Dana softened slightly. I didn't say that. But you're here, Lily said, voice trembling. And my daughter's been alive for only hours. I haven't even held her. Please, please don't take her from me. Mason stepped forward. Miss Whitfield, this woman nearly died to protect her children. Her husband abandoned her during surgery. She's the victim here, not the threat. Dana nodded. I'm aware of Mrs. Hartman's medical condition, but my job is to follow the guidelines. And until we clarify all inconsistencies, especially the genetic link to a donor, Eli cut in firmly, that donor is me, and I'm here to clarify everything. Dana turned to him. Mr. Wolf, your presence confirms what the report suggested, that you have biological compatibility with the child. We need to determine whether this connection implies paternal claim or medical contamination. Lily's panic rose again. She's my baby, she whispered. Please don't talk about her like she's something that can be moved around. Dana nodded with genuine empathy. Mrs. Hartman, I'm not here to take your children. I'm here to ensure legal clarity before we finalize their birth certificates. Adrian stepped closer, his presence commanding the space. What do you need to close this case? Dana turned her tablet to him. Documentation from the hospital confirming the transfusion, DNA verification, and a statement detailing the exact circumstances of the collapse months ago. I'll provide all of that, Eli said quickly. And I, Mason added, will sign every medical statement required. Dana nodded. Good, that will help. But there's still the matter of Mr. Thatcher. Lily's heart stuttered. Cole? He's gone. He's under arrest. Which complicates the custody record, Dana explained. We must legally determine his future rights or lack thereof. Until then, I have to interview you, Mrs. Hartman. Lily's breathing grew shaky. Right now, I can barely stand. Dana's expression softened. That is exactly why we need to evaluate your stability and support system. Adrian stepped in immediately. She has a support system. She has me. Mason added firmly, and me. Eli nodded. And whatever else is needed. Dana looked between the three men, surprised at the unified wall of protection surrounding Lily. If that's true, she said, then this interview will go smoothly. Mason pulled a chair over for Dana. Adrian moved closer to Lily, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. She closed her eyes briefly, drawing strength from the contact. When she opened them, the fear was still there, but something steadier was growing beneath it. "All right," Dana said quietly. "Mrs. Hartman, are you ready?" Lily swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, I'll answer everything." "First question," Dana said, scrolling her tablet. "How would you describe your emotional state as the custodial parent?" Lily took a fragile breath, then spoke with surprising clarity. "I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. But I'm also alive. And everything I have left inside me belongs to my children." Dana's face lifted slightly, not approval, but recognition. "What about your support network?" she asked. Adrian stepped forward. "She has family." Mason added, "She has medical support." Eli finished, "And she has protection." Dana nodded as she typed. "This is good. Very good." But then another alert flashed on her tablet. Her eyes widened slightly. She looked up. "Mrs. Hartman, there's been a new development regarding your husband's case." Lily's stomach dropped. Dana exhaled slowly. Cole Thatcher just filed an emergency claim, asserting parental rights over both newborns. The NICU seemed to tilt as the words left Dana Whitfield's mouth. Cole Thatcher just filed an emergency claim asserting parental rights over both newborns. Lily felt her breath shatter. It was as if the air had turned solid, trapping her chest in a vice. "What?" she whispered, voice thin and frightened. "He's trying to claim my babies now?" Dana tapped her tablet, frowning. "The filing came in less than 10 minutes ago. He submitted it from police holding. He's demanding immediate recognition as the legal father, which, depending on how the paperwork stands, could temporarily stall or complicate your custody." Lily shook her head vigorously, panic rising. No, he can't. He tried to let me die. He tried to abandon the babies. Why would he do this now?" Adrian Wolfe didn't hesitate. "Because he's desperate." Eli nodded grimly. "He thinks claiming the kids gives him leverage. Or sympathy. Or both." Mason added, voice tight with anger. "He's trying to manipulate the system before it fully turns on him." Dana looked at them with a mixture of sympathy and caution. "Let me be honest. Legally, a biological father can file claims even from custody. Courts still require review. The fact that Mr. Thatcher is in holding doesn't automatically remove his rights." Lily's hands trembled. "He doesn't deserve rights." "No," Adrian said sharply, "he doesn't. And we're going to make sure the court sees that." Dana cleared her throat. "Mrs. Hartman, you'll need to provide a statement confirming his actions, particularly his refusal to authorize life-saving surgery. The hospital can support your claim, but your first-hand testimony is crucial." Lily swallowed, feeling the weight of everything pressing onto her shoulders again. "I'll do it. I'll tell them everything." "We'll help you," Mason said, gently squeezing her shoulder. Dana continued. "Additionally, I will file an immediate protective motion to restrict Mr. Thatcher from gaining temporary custody or visitation until the criminal investigation advances. But until the judge signs it, the request is active." Lily's voice cracked. "So he could actually delay us taking them home?" Dana inhaled deeply. "Possibly. But I promise you, everything you've shared today will work in your favor." Adrian stepped closer, voice controlled but vibrating with fury. "Can you include the recording? The one where he said the insurance payout would be worth it if she died?" Dana blinked. "There's a recording?" One of the MPs stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am. Body cam caught his statements. We're submitting it to the police report." Dana's posture shifted instantly, confidence replacing caution. "That changes everything." Lily felt her shoulders loosen just a fraction. Dana continued, "With the recording, medical testimony, and Mr. Wolfe's corroboration, Cole's emergency claim won't hold. A judge will likely view it as retaliation or manipulation, not genuine concern." Lily's eyes brimmed with tears. Thank you. But Dana hadn't finished. "There's one more issue." Everyone tensed. "Mr. Thatcher also claimed," she said slowly, "that you are emotionally unstable and unfit for custody due to your medical trauma." Lily gasped, horror flashing across her face. "He said what?" Dana nodded apologetically. "He stated, you're in no condition to care for newborns. He claims your long-term instability puts the babies at risk." "Long-term instability?" Lily repeated, stunned. "I've been working non-stop to support him. I've never even—" Adrian cut in, "He's lying, and will dismantle every lie." Mason's voice turned steel sharp. He left her to die on the operating table. He doesn't get to determine her stability. Eli crossed his arms. I'll testify. Whatever's needed. Dana took notes rapidly. Good. I'll need all statements in writing within the next 48 hours. Lily wiped her tears, chin trembling but lifting. I will tell the truth. Every part of it. Dana gave her a reassuring nod. Once the protective motion is filed, you'll have full custody. But until then, I need you to stay calm and let us handle the legal side. Lily exhaled shakily. I'll try. Dana offered a small smile. You're doing better than you think. Then she turned toward the door. I'll start drafting the emergency restriction order immediately. As soon as Dana left, the room eased slightly, but noticeably. Mason knelt before Lily, his gaze warm. You didn't break during surgery. You didn't break facing him in the hall. You're not breaking now. Adrian stood tall behind her. He doesn't get to win, not this time. Lily inhaled deeply, looking at her babies, tiny fighters who needed her more than anything. I won't let him take anything else from me, she whispered. But as she said it, a sudden beep from Baby B's monitor broke the moment. The nurse rushed over. Mason's face paled. Adrian moved instantly. Lily felt her heart crack. Baby B's oxygen levels were dropping fast. The moment Baby B's monitor began wailing, the air inside the NICU shifted from tense to catastrophic. A piercing alarm echoed through the quiet space. Red lights flashing above the incubator like warnings from fate itself. Nurses rushed in from both sides, the room erupting into frantic movement. Lily's entire body jerked. What's happening? What's wrong with her? Her voice trembled violently, and she tried to rise from the wheelchair, but her weakened legs buckled. Mason caught her instantly. Easy, Lily. Stay seated. I've got you. But his eyes were fixed on the monitors, and the worry written across his face shredded her remaining composure. Adrian moved faster than thought. What's her oxygen level? A nurse responded quickly, 62, and dropping. Too low. Much too low. Another nurse lifted the infant gently from the incubator, carrying her with delicate precision to a warmer table. The tiny baby's chest moved in shallow, uneven bursts. She was fighting, but losing. Lily felt heat rise to her face and then drain from it all at once. My baby, my baby. Mason turned to her, kneeling so they were eye level. Lily, listen to me. We are going to help her. She's small, but she's a fighter. You have to breathe with her. I can't lose her, Lily whispered. I just found her. Adrian moved beside Mason. His voice was steady, controlled, but she saw the panic flicker beneath. Lily, look at me. She tried, but her eyes kept darting toward her daughter's limp body. Mason and the team saved you, Adrian said firmly. They saved your son. They will save her too. But Lily wasn't hearing logic anymore, only fear. Fear of losing a child she hadn't even held. Fear of fate, taking something else from her after taking so much already. The nurse called out, her saturation is 48. Mason snapped into full physician mode. He took the infant into his hands, his movements a flawless blend of gentleness and urgency. Prep positive pressure ventilation. Now. Another nurse handed him the tiny bag mask device designed for premature infants. Mason sealed it over the baby's nose and mouth. 1, 2, breathe. 1, 2, come on, sweetheart. Seeing him fight for her daughter broke Lily in a way nothing else had. She buried her face into her hands, tears streaming, her voice cracking through sobs. Please, please don't take her, please. Adrian crouched beside her, gripping her shaking hands. Lily, you're not alone. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. She sobbed harder, leaning into him for strength she no longer had. Then, a small whimper, barely audible, but real. Mason froze, then lifted his head. There, she's responding. The monitor blipped upward 52, 59, 68. Lily gasped and jerked toward the table. Is she breathing? Mason swallowed hard, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. Yes, she's fighting back. The relief was so overwhelming that Lily nearly collapsed. She gripped Adrian's arm as she cried, pure, unfiltered gratitude flooding her. Mason continued guiding the ventilation until her daughter's breath strengthened further. Then he looked at Lily. Really looked. Do you want to hold her? He asked softly. Lily froze. I can? You should, he said gently. She needs you. Two nurses worked together to disconnect the necessary wires, securing the oxygen tubing so it remained stable. Then Mason lifted the tiny newborn, so small she seemed to weigh nothing, and carried her with reverent care toward Lily. Her hands trembled violently, terrified she wasn't strong enough. But Mason guided her arms, adjusting her posture, cradling her hands around the fragile bundle. And then, for the first time, Lily held her daughter. The world stopped. Her baby was warm, real, alive. Her tiny fingers curled against Lily's chest as if recognizing home. The mother released a sound that was half sob, half prayer. "I'm here," Lily whispered. "Mommy's here. You're safe now." Adrian wiped his eyes discreetly. Eli stepped back, giving space but holding on to the railing for steadiness. Mason watched with a softness he didn't try to hide. "She stabilized the moment she heard your voice," he murmured. "She knew you." Lily looked up at him through tears. "Thank you. You saved her." Mason shook his head gently. "You did. She needed you." But before the emotional quiet could settle, Dana Whitfield re-entered the NICU holding her tablet with wide eyes. "Mrs. Hartman, Adrian, we have a problem." Everyone tensed again. Dana swallowed. Cole's emergency claim triggered an automatic alert to the hospital system. He named someone else in his filing. Lily's grip tightened on her daughter. "Who?" Dana hesitated. He named Eli Wolf as a supposed affair partner. The room exploded with shock. Even Eli stepped back. "What? That's not," Dana continued. "He's trying to frame this as a custody scandal to discredit you. And the judge wants an immediate hearing first thing tomorrow morning." Lily felt herself go cold. She had survived surgery, survived betrayal, survived nearly losing her daughter. But now, she had to face a courtroom battle against a desperate man willing to destroy anyone to save himself. The NICU lights reflected off polished floors, as if the whole room had been dipped in tension. Lily Hartman clutched her daughter tightly against her chest, her fingers trembling but protective, as Dana Whitfield repeated the words none of them ever expected to hear. "Cole Thatcher named Eli Wolf in his filing. He's claiming you two had an affair." Eli looked like he'd been punched. "That's a lie, a disgusting lie. I barely knew her back then." Adrian took a step forward, fury simmering beneath the surface. "He's making this into a circus because he's scared." He looked to Dana. "This is retaliation. Anyone can see that." Dana nodded. "I agree. But the judge will still review it, and because it's a custody issue, the court is obligated to consider all claims no matter how absurd until disproven." Lily's arms tightened around her daughter as fear clawed up her spine. She felt the tiny heartbeat against her chest, fragile but stubborn, the only thing grounding her. "He's doing this to punish me," she whispered. "He's trying to hurt me in the only way he has left." Mason crouched beside her wheelchair. "Lily, look at me." She lifted her gaze, eyes red and exhausted. "You survived the impossible," he said softly. "You're standing, literally standing after everything he put you through. He can't win unless you let fear silence you." Adrian placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "You're not alone in this. You have family. You have us." Dana cleared her throat. "We need a plan before tomorrow." The judge ordered an emergency hearing at 8 a.m. He wants to review the custody concerns, the medical reports, the genetic marker, and the donation file. Lily felt her stomach twist. "I can barely walk. How am I supposed to talk in court?" "You won't walk alone," Mason said. "We'll get you a medical transport. I'll be there." "And I'll be by your side," Adrian added. Eli raised his hand slightly. "And I'll testify. I will make it clear I was nothing more than an emergency donor. I didn't even know Lily's name." Dana nodded approvingly. "Good. The more transparent we are, the stronger the case." But Lily wasn't convinced. "He's desperate enough to lie about paternity. What else is he capable of?" Adrian exchanged a grim look with Mason. "Anything," he admitted, "but he's cornered. Cornered men make reckless moves, and then they fall apart." Dana glanced down at her tablet. "I have already submitted the request to temporarily suspend his parental rights based on medical abandonment. The judge is reviewing it now. If it's approved before the hearing, you'll walk in with the upper hand." Lily exhaled shakily. "I just want this nightmare to end." Mason touched her arm gently. "It will. And when it does, he won't be able to touch your children ever again. A nurse approached quietly. We need to return the baby to the warmer for monitoring soon. Lily hesitated, looking down at the tiny face nestled against her. The baby made a soft squeak, as if urging her to be brave. Lily kissed her forehead and whispered, I'll protect you. I promise. When the nurse took her daughter, Lily wiped her tears and straightened. All right, tell me what I need to do. Dana stepped closer. Tonight, you need rest. Real rest. Tomorrow, I'll guide you through every question. You don't have to be strong alone. You just have to be honest. Lily nodded, though her body felt like it was held together by threads. As Mason pushed her wheelchair back toward her recovery room, Adrian and Eli walked on either side, forming a protective shield that made every passing nurse glance with a mixture of awe and sympathy. Lily felt fragile, but for the first time, she also felt protected. Guided. Called to something bigger than fear. But just before they reached the door, a hospital security guard ran toward them. Commander Wolf, the guard shouted. Urgent update. Adrian turned sharply. What happened? The guard hesitated, eyes darting toward Lily. It's about Mr. Thatcher. Lily's pulse spiked. What about him? He escaped holding an hour ago. Everyone stopped cold. The guard added, voice tight, and police believe he's heading here to the hospital. The hallway fell into a suffocating silence. Even the hum of fluorescent lights seemed to dim under the weight of the security guard's warning. Cole escaped holding an hour ago, and police believe he's heading here to the hospital. Lily felt her entire body lock. Fear rippled through her like cold water, tightening every muscle and stealing her breath. No, he can't. He wouldn't come here. Not after everything. Adrian's stance changed instantly, shoulders squared, jaw clenched, eyes sharp as steel. He stepped forward with the commanding presence that made seasoned soldiers stand straighter. Where's security positioned? The guard responded quickly. We've locked down the main entrance and emergency wing. Police are setting up outside, but it's a storm. Visibility is low. If he's desperate enough, he'll try any access point. He is desperate, Adrian muttered. That's what makes this dangerous. Mason placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, grounding her. She was trembling so violently he feared she might faint. Breathe, he whispered. You're safe. We won't let him get near you. Eli moved closer too, scanning the hallway as if expecting Cole to appear at any moment. If he's coming here, it's not for the babies. It's for leverage. Or revenge. Revenge, Lily whispered, her voice thin. Because I'm alive. Adrian knelt beside her wheelchair, eyes level with hers. Listen to me, Lily. He is no longer your problem. He doesn't control you, and he will not touch you or your children ever again. She swallowed, but her throat felt tight. What if he tries to take them? What if he gets past security? Then he'll face me, Adrian said, his voice calm but edged with authority. I'm not letting anything happen to you. Dana Whitfield stepped forward, professional mask slightly cracked by concern. Mrs. Hartman, we must move you to a secure room until the police apprehend him. Court protocol allows protective relocation in cases of imminent threat. Adrian nodded. Good. Take her to the maternity safe wing. Only authorized passcodes get through. Mason tightened his grip on the wheelchair handles. I'll take her myself. Lily shook her head suddenly. Wait, my babies. I can't leave them. Not now. A NICU nurse hurried over. We'll secure the nursery. Additional staff and security are already stationed inside. Your babies will not be left alone. Tears filled Lily's eyes. Please, stay with them. Don't let anyone near them. You have my word, the nurse said. Adrian rose. Eli, stay here near the NICU. If Cole shows up anywhere near this wing, alert security and me immediately. Eli nodded. He won't get past us. As Mason began pushing the wheelchair toward the protected maternity corridor, Lily turned her head back toward the NICU one last time. Please be safe, she whispered to her newborns, voice trembling but full of love. But before the group reached the secured hallway, the overhead intercom crackled a voice from security. All units be advised, the west stairwell alarm just triggered, possible unauthorized entry. Lily's breath caught. He's inside? We don't know, the intercom responded. Stay in place until officers sweep. Adrian's posture snapped into full command mode. Eli, protect that stairwell. Mason, get Lily to the safe room. Dana, stay close, no exceptions. Mason pushed faster, his face tight with worry. "We're almost there, Lily, just a few more steps." But the farther they moved down the dimmer hallway, the heavier the air felt. The hum of the lights seemed too loud, the quiet too unnatural. Every corner looked like a shadow waiting to move. Lily clutched the blanket draped across her lap. "Please, please don't let him reach us." Mason leaned down, his voice warm despite the tension. "Lily, look at me." She forced her eyes up. "You survived him once, you'll survive him again, because this time you're not alone." Before she could reply, a crash sounded from the end of the hallway. Something metal hit the floor. Footsteps fast, frantic, echoed toward them. Dana gasped. Mason spun the wheelchair around. Adrian came sprinting from behind, hand outstretched. "Move," Adrian barked. "Get her inside the safe room now." The footsteps grew louder, closer. A man's voice echoed through the hall, strained, breathless, eerily familiar. "Lily." Her blood turned to ice. It was him, Cole. But when the figure turned the corner, staggering into view, all of them froze. Because something was terribly wrong. Cole wasn't running toward them. He was stumbling, clutching his side. His shirt torn, wet with rain and something darker. His face was pale, wild, desperate. My God," Mason whispered. "What happened to him?" Cole collapsed to his knees. They're coming," he gasped. "Not just me. They want the babies." Lily's heart stopped. This wasn't just Cole anymore. Something far more dangerous had entered the story. Cole Thatcher crumpled to the floor like a broken marionette, rainwater dripping from his hair and clothes. He clutched his side, trembling, but Lily could see not blood, just bruises, dirt, and a ripped shirt. Nothing fatal. Nothing life-threatening. Just enough to show he'd been running, or running from someone. Adrian stepped forward instantly, blocking Lily with his body. "Cole, don't take another step. Who's coming? Who did this?" Cole's breaths came sharp and ragged. "The loan guys, the ones I owed money to. They followed me. They think I have the insurance payout. They think I already got it." Dana's eyes widened, but the insurance hasn't even processed. "They don't care," Cole snapped, panic rising. "They said if I didn't lead them to the babies, they'd terror." He stopped, shaking his head, terror filling his expression. "They think the kids are valuable leverage. I tried to outrun them. They're dangerous. You have to protect me." Lily's hands trembled on the blanket over her lap. "You endangered our babies." Again, Cole scrambled, slipping on the floor as he tried to reach her wheelchair. Adrian stopped him with one outstretched arm, not violent, just firm, like a steel gate. "Stay back. You come one step closer to my sister, and you'll be pinned to that wall until officers arrive." Cole froze, chest heaving. He had lost all the arrogance, all the manipulation. What remained was a man stripped bare by his own consequences. Security sprinted in moments later. "Commander Wolf, west stairwell is clear, building is secure." Police apprehended 3 men outside attempting forced entry. Lily exhaled shakily. The threat was over. Not because of Cole, but because other men stepped up where he never had. 2 officers hauled Cole to his feet. He didn't resist. He couldn't. His shoulders sagged, his face defeated. One officer read him his charges: fraud, endangerment, false claim, attempted custodial interference. Cole barely listened. His eyes were locked on Lily. "You're really turning your back on me?" he asked, voice cracking. For the first time since they married, Lily didn't feel afraid of him. She felt nothing but clarity. "You turned your back on me in that operating room. I only survived because of everyone else in this hallway, not you." Cole swallowed hard. "I didn't mean—" "Yes," Lily said softly, evenly. "You did." It was the moment he finally understood he had lost everything. The officers escorted him away. His footsteps faded down the corridor until silence returned, warm, clean, and safe. Dana turned toward Lily. "Mrs. Hartman, given Mr. Thatcher's actions tonight, I will be filing an immediate petition to terminate his parental rights and grant you sole custody." I don't foresee the judge hesitating. Lily covered her face as relief shook her body. Mason knelt beside her, steadying her as she cried. "You're safe," he whispered. "Your babies are safe. It's over now." Adrian placed a strong hand on her back. "He can't hurt you anymore. Ever." For the first time in years, Lily believed it. When the sun finally rose over Manhattan, golden light filtered through the NICU windows. Lily stood weak but determined between Adrian and Mason as she held both her babies in her arms. One bundled in blue, one in pink, two tiny lives who had survived the storm with her. She whispered to them, voice soft and full of promise, "You're my beginning, and I will never let anyone take you from me." Adrian rested a hand on her shoulder. "You have family now. Real family." Mason smiled, warm and gentle. "And you have a future. One you get to choose." Lily looked between the two men, her brother by blood and the doctor who had fought for her life like it mattered. For the first time, she felt deserving. Whole. Strong. Her new life had just begun. Her children were safe. Justice had been served. And the woman Cole tried to break had risen into someone unstoppable. And just like that, our story finds its ending. But you, yes, you, who stayed with us all the way until now, there's a reason you're still here. Something in Lily's journey touched your heart, maybe in a quiet way you didn't expect. So, let's take a moment together, just you and me, to look at what this story really teaches us. Lily reminds us that even in the darkest moments, we are never as powerless as we think. As Marcus Aurelius once said, what stands in the way becomes the way. Her pain didn't define her, her courage did. She learned that real family isn't always the one you're born into, but the people who choose to protect you when life falls apart. And maybe that's a lesson for all of us. Healing comes when we stop surviving alone and let others stand beside us. If this story made you feel something, strength, hope, maybe even a little healing, then don't leave quietly. Give this video a like, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe so you can walk with us through more journeys like this. We're here with you, and you're never alone in your story.